Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So, welcome to part 18 of R&B is Dead. Now, as I always say in this series, R&B is not actually dead. It's more so just, it's struggling commercially. That's what we always talk about. It just needs a little boost. You know, it's having a hard time in comparison to some of the other genres. As we know, the entire music industry is falling apart anyway. Nobody's really moving records and nobody's really selling or anything like that. However, R&B is really taking a hit in comparison to the other genres. Even with the whole streaming thing, R&B acts are not getting that same success. And so that's the purpose of this series, just letting you know like ideas and things that I think work to kind of help boost the careers of other acts. And again, there's some really great music out there. You just have to dig through the trenches of the internet to find it. And that's kind of what sucks, because there used to be a time where it was just readily available to you all the time. You'd just be laying around, you'd be flipping channels, and boom, there was this really great music video on it. You're like, oh, this song is dope. Boom, I love it. Or, you know, you're listening to the radio before all the radio stations had the same syndicated playlist. And, you know, you could always hear something new or something fresh. And it didn't have to be something that was regurgitated and played a million times over for you to like it. It was like you liked it the first time you heard it. And it was like, boom. So that's kind of the purpose of this. Now, I know I haven't done one of these specific videos in a good year. But it's because I honestly just, aside from me working on my own album, I just wanted to just kind of take a step back and just enjoy music as a fan. And just kind of see what's going on out there, kind of see what trends were working, what wasn't, and, you know, just take a step back so when I do come back with a new one a year later and a few months after that, you know, I'm a little rejuvenated. I felt like I was running out of things to talk about. And so, yeah, those who, and it's crazy because I got a lot of people who subscribed specifically for this series, like within like the last few months. Like, I don't know if something randomly trended somewhere, or, I don't know, because I don't really promote my videos on my social media, but somehow they all just started popping off. But anyway, back to my point. So I want to talk about a few things in this specific episode. One thing is about just exposure. Another thing is about the specific genre as a whole, and a few other things. But anyway, here's my point. So I was thinking, and I was like, you know, R&B acts have a really, really hard time as far as getting exposure at the moment. Like, and it's really hard. Can we be honest? Pretty much, R&B has no real outlets for exposure out. And I mean, radio's there, we know that. But at this point, the only R&B that's being played on any radio is pretty much neo soul and adult contemporary R&B that's being played on the urban AC stations. As far as the mainstream stations, R&B is not really getting a lot of representation. There's been a few gems that have kind of snuck in there. So SZA's tracks have been doing what they do. You know, Solange's Cranes in the Sky, that song still gets a lot of play, and it actually has a really good replay value. Like, it still sounds good like a year and some change later. But pretty much the R&B acts, you know, they're competing against the hip-hop acts on the radio, so they're just not getting that exposure. And of course, pop radio doesn't even know who they are, so it doesn't even matter. But I was thinking, and I was like, you know, there's just not a lot of exposure. If it weren't for Twitter, to be honest, a lot of these R&B acts that a lot of us like that are kind of low-key, most of us wouldn't know about. Like the Daniel Caesar guy, who actually, I do like his album, by the way. It's a really great project. I would have never heard of him if it weren't for Twitter. I would have never heard of SZA if it weren't for Twitter. I would have never heard of well, Anderson .Paak I kind of knew about, but like a lot of these acts I would have never heard of if it weren't for Twitter. Like, Twitter is literally carrying people. So I started thinking, I was like, you know what, maybe there should be an app. And listen, maybe I'm about to bless one of y'all and y'all gonna plant the seed and be rich. Please just give me my credit. I don't even want no money for it. But I think there should be an app that somehow connects artists and consumers, and it should be specifically created for R&B music, black on black operated. And what I was thinking is, like, I feel like there should be an app where if I'm a consumer, you know, I go on this app, I type in what my favorite artists are, what my favorite sounds are. Do I like up tempos or do I like mid tempos? Do I like slow jams? Do I like live instruments? Do I like things that are heavily programmed? Do I, you know, you type in all your preferences and everything like that. And then once you type it in, it gives you a list of all these different artists who pretty much would meet your demands. And on the flip side, if you're an artist, when you're making your profile, or if you are like on a larger label or anything like that, and they're putting your information in, it's like, okay, I'm an artist who sounds like Prince, and I sound like this, and most of my music is up-tempo, most of my music is this, most of my music is live instruments, most of my music comes out of the Detroit sound, most of my music comes out of the Philadelphia sound, my music was rooted in DC, this is the like, and stuff like that. And pretty much what it would end up doing is like, it connects people to genres or sounds that they like. And then in addition to that, another cool thing that would be cool about that app is if you could set it up where things were trending. And it wasn't just trending for, you know, the big names who have a label or an independent label, and, you know, everybody's gonna know about them anyway. But for that random person who's living in Richmond, California, who just released an album and everything like that, and maybe they have a little bit of buzz in that, that Bay Area, but nowhere else in the country, and it's like you get some alert like, okay, this person is buzzing in the Bay Area, check this person out. Or, this person is buzzing in Central Florida around like Orlando and Lake Wells and everything like that. Check that person out. Or this person is buzzing, around San Antonio, Texas. Check that. Like, that would be kind of cool, because really a lot of people just don't know about a lot of really great music because there's no way to hear about it. Like, to be honest, if I didn't work with kids, I wouldn't know half the stuff that's out. Like, to be honest, like that Lil Uzi Vert song, which is a rap song, but that little All My Friends Are Dead song, my kids used to sing that crap every day, and I was like, that has to be the stupidest song. If y'all don't shut up about that song, let that song die. I don't want y'all to sing about nobody dying. Y'all need to go to your homework. If you knew your homework like you knew them songs, y'all be alright. And then I happened to go to a party one time, and that song came on, and it was one of the only songs I knew. I know this. I was like, yeah, listen. And that was mainly because the kids were playing it so much. But like literally, it just goes back to that same formula. Like record labels knew that if you could get something repetitive and repeated enough to consumers, and it was just played over and over and over, consumers would like it. And so that's pretty much how I ended up liking that song, because I heard it a million times. But then again, R&B acts don't even have that outlet to get that kind of exposure where things can just be thrown at you a million times. So I think like an app would be a really awesome way to connect people with specifically R&B music, and just like a way, like I said, getting it to trend as far as within that app, and like people, maybe you get notifications, and then of course, you could have your favorite artists and everything like that, and every time they upload a new song or something, you get a notification if you're following that artist on that specific app, and that app could have information about like tour dates. If that artist is doing like some kind of music video or something, it's a perfect outlet for the music video to get exposure. And like, I just think there's something like that that's needed. Unfortunately, because television is not really doing what it needs to do for R&B as far as shows like 106 and Park and stuff, being non-existent, because now this is the day and age where people would rather go on YouTube and just look up their favorite video rather than sit and wait an hour and a half for 50 seconds of their song to play on a countdown. You can go to YouTube and find it. But then again, that issue is people don't know who to look for because these artists are not getting a lot of exposure. There's been a lot of really nice projects that come out in the last few months. Like, I like the Elijah Blake project, the Daniel Caesar project. I haven't had a chance to listen to Tamar yet, but y'all can tell me what you think about it. I'm going to check it out. I mean, I listened to it a little bit, but not like all the way through. Lettuce's was okay. Stokely was alright. There's been some really nice projects to come out, but again, if you don't know they're out, you wouldn't know to go to YouTube and search that artist, or you wouldn't know to go to Spotify and search that artist. So I think that's the first thing. There has to be some better ways of exposure. R&B acts really just need their own elements of exposure. And the reason why I say that acts should be centered on R&B and like R&B only is because if you start adding the pop acts and the rap acts and everything else like that, R&B is going to fall right back by the wayside, because again, R&B just needs its own legs at the moment. R&B has been on both the receiving end of the benefits when it comes to collabing with pop or collabing with rap or jazz and some of the other genres, but it's also been on the receiving end of the negativity that comes with it, where their sound gets saturated and swallowed up by the other genres, and then R&B as a whole is just kind of thrown under the bus and ignored. And so I just think like an app would be a really great idea. I know that TRL is back. To be honest, I think TRL will only be here for like a year or two. I don't see it doing that well, just because, like I said, people are going to go to YouTube. Now, I know it's on at the time period where the kids are getting out of school and maybe they're into it, but I don't think their attention span is long enough to sit and watch a show for an hour, because they're already going to be on their phones. They can just look up what they want to look up. They're not going to be paying attention. So if TRL is going to come back, I think TRL should focus on live performances more so than just videos. Like, really focus on live performances, focus on interviewing the acts, and then I don't know a whole lot about the people hosting it, but I know one of them is a comedian, so I was like, I hope he has like a music background and knows something about music, because the thing that worked with something like a 106 in Park or TRL back in the day is that all the hosts were actual people who studied music. Like Carson Daly on TRL, you would think, oh, it's a white guy, he only knows rock music, but Carson Daly was down with everybody. He could tell you all the R&B acts, all the hip-hop acts, the pop acts, the rock, like everything. Same thing in 106 in Park with AJ and Free, or even Jalissa and Big Tigger and what was it, Roxy and Terrence. Like, they all understood music, so they were fans of everything. So we'll see what goes on with TRL. We'll check back in a year and see if it's even still on the air. But there has to be some newer outlets for R&B acts to get exposure, just for their music to be heard. There's a lot of really cool websites, and I'm sure there's some additional apps and stuff that are out, but nobody knows about them. So there just needs to be that one that blows up, that can be that new source and that new outlet for exposure that would lead to success. And let me see, moving on. So, what else did I want to talk about? So going back to R&B, the next thing I want to talk about is I noticed for some reason, as a collective, it seems like R&B only gets to have one element be successful at a time. And when I'm talking about elements, I mean the different kinds of R&B. So right now, there's contemporary R&B, there's alternative R&B, there's neo soul, there's a bunch of other different things that are out there. We don't even know what to give a title to yet. But it seems like for some reason, it's like there can only be one out at a time. And so I started thinking back to an earlier time period because when I look at what's now, everything is alternative R&B right now. So the people like SZA and them are really popping off in Solange, and that's cool. And I like all of them. But can I be honest? I like an up tempo every now and then. Like every now and then, I want to get in my car and shake my shoulder to something every now and then. And like I have to always go to the pop and the hip hop acts to get that because all the R&B acts want to be right here. And like I said, that's cool. If everybody wants to be right here, because listen, I love that Daniel Caesar album, but when I want to turn up, I can't put him on. I put him on when I'm getting ready to, when I'm cleaning up and cooking and laying around and lounging and chilling. But it's like a lot of the R&B acts, I'm like, where are the up tempos? Y'all just refuse. Like, R&B used to have some gems when it came to up tempos, which is probably why half my album is all super fast. And I'm not going to talk about my album on this whole thing, so don't worry. I'm not going to keep plugging it in there, but I just had to let y'all know because I worked hard on it. But it's like, nobody does up tempos. I'm like, are y'all not happy? Like, I know it's some crappy times when we got a terrible president and everybody thinks we're going to die every week because North Korea got, they're doing what they're doing, and then crazy president is tripping and poking them with the stick, and there's a lot going on. But I'm just like, there has to be a way where all of the different kind of sounds of R&B can flourish, which leads me to my point. Like, I was thinking back of the time period between like 1988 and maybe 1992. That was also, like I've already told you, my favorite era of music, my favorite eras would probably be like the mid-90s, and then I really, really like about 2002 to 2005 were really great eras. But 88 to 92 was a great time because there were so many different sounds that were out within R&B. So one, you had like your R&B diva, radio friendly, they can sing, but they can also give you the more commercially sounding, tracks, and then, they gave you up tempos and slow jams. Those were like the Karen Whites and Jody Watleys, so they were popping off. Then you had your balladeers. So Luther Vandross was still doing his Luther thing. You had Mickey Howard. You had Melissa Morgan and was it Kashif with the changes, the love will make you, that song. Even though I think that's before 88, that's probably like 86, 87. But you had like that kind of sound going with all the balladeers and people just making those really smooth, really great R&B songs that were like live band. Phyllis Hyman, perfect example. She's definitely in that mix. Phyllis Hyman. There's a ton of other people. I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but a lot of the acts who were from that era. In addition, then you still had your R&B acts who were pop crossover success. So the Janets and the Princes and the Michaels and the Whitneys, they were doing their big super. They weren't even really in the R&B club at this point. Some of the R&B acts were sick of them because they were so huge. And then you had New Jack Swing was doing what it was doing, so Teddy Riley was getting his sound out there, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis were kind of pushing their sound out, and Babyface was kind of pushing his sound, and so you had acts like After 7, and you had Guy, and you had Alexander O'Neal was still out doing his thing. Sherelle, somebody asked Skip. You just had all these different acts with these different sounds. Morris Day and the Time were still hanging in there, trying to do what they had with the Pandemonium album, and like there's just all these different sounds going. Who else did I leave out? House music was popping off. House music that's the golden era for house music, like 88 to really like 95, but I'll stop at 92. All that house music that was really jumping off, and so, because house music, people don't want to consider that to be R&B, but that was R&B at the time. It was very R&B influenced, because like I said, house music was just an extension of disco and dance music, which was black music, and so house music was really doing what it was doing. What am I skipping here? Oh, and then you had the whole R&B British invasion, so you had a lot of acts like Loose Ends, and you had acts like Lisa Stansfield, and you just had all these different sounds. Like Loose Ends was my group. Watching You that is a bop and a half, man. That's a great song. Check that one out. Or Network, they had that song, I think, Cover Girl, but Network was a little bit earlier. I think that was the earlier 80s. You had the bands like Brand New Heavies, and you had Tony that kind of came out. Mint Condition was on their way. Like there was just all these different sounds in that same 4-year time period. And so when you turned on the radio and an R&B song came on, you didn't know what you were going to get. You didn't know if you were going to get a nice ballad. You didn't know if you were going to get a club banger from something Teddy Riley produced. You didn't know if you were going to get something that would make you sit down and think with the live bands. You didn't know if you were going to get something that was a little bit funky but a little bit different that came from across the pond. It was just, there was so much going on. And like right now, when you think about R&B, there's not really a lot of lanes. The urban AC stations are only going to play neo-soul. And my only beef with what's going on with music right now, especially with the neo-soul acts, is as much as we love them, a lot of their albums, because they're not getting the same producers that they once had, like if you just look at neo-soul in 2017 in comparison to like 2001, they're not getting the same producers. The same investment is not going into some of the music. So a lot of them are coming out with albums that are just, they're there. There's some gems on the albums, but the albums overall are kind of like, they're forgettable. There's nothing that's just like, boom, in your face. And I mean, these acts can sing their behinds off. They can sing you under a table. And really where they shine is with the live concerts. When they do their own concerts, they just get it in. But a lot of neo-soul acts, their albums are just, there's not an element of completion. You know what I mean? It's just songs sometimes. And it's not just those acts, because then when you get to some of the alternative R&B acts, it's the same thing. Some of them, even though I think their albums are a little bit more cohesive and flow better, some of them are running into that same problem with the albums are just not that great. Like there's a lot of people who are just not really releasing like albums. You know what I mean? When I say albums, I mean like a whole, you put it in and they take you on a journey. You go high, low, here, there, everywhere, and boom. I want to do it again. And you start it over. Like there's not a lot of projects that are coming out like that. But so that's what R&B radio is doing. And then pretty much the commercialized radio, they're not playing any R&B at all, unless your name is Solange or SZA. Maybe not even Frank Ocean. You can say the Khalid kid, and even though he's a little bit different, but Khalid, I actually like him, by the way. I like his music. He's alright with me. I think what I like about Khalid is that, one, he's just like super young. He's like 18 or 19, and so I like the energy that he has. He kind of just reminds me of when I was still that same age. But I have not, is this album actually out? Did the album actually come out? I don't know. But like, so, you know, the radio's only playing so many people. So like a Khalid, maybe The Weeknd, who is kind of back and forth. I'm starting to like The Weeknd a little bit more. I didn't really care for him for the longest because I was like, But I do like a lot of the singles he's released so far. And, you know, it's just like radio's just not supporting them. And how I know radio's not supporting them is because when I turn the TV to like something like BET Soul, and when they had that hour with like Soulphrodisiac or Sub Soul, and where they're playing the acts that you don't normally see, there's all this great music I'm seeing, like, okay, this is dope. And then you don't hear none of it on the radio. And I'm just like, dang. Which is why I said that app needs to happen. Like, there just has to be some kind of element where there's better exposure. What else did I want to say? Like, I'm going to have to do like an extension of this really quick, like in like the next few weeks. But yeah, and I think one other thing R&B acts can probably do is I think they have to fight and claw to get better placements. Not just with radio, but even with television, like with ads, with everything like that. Like television ads have helped a lot of pop acts really get their hits off the ground. Like if you go to the pop acts and you look at how Katy Perry's been struggling this whole era, that Swish Swish song, even though it didn't really do that great, what helped it was that it was used in like 4 different commercials. They were doing everything they could to force this song on y'all so y'all could like it. Y'all still said no, but those ad placements helped that song to kind of, you know, peak a little bit higher. And I noticed like a lot of, like Robin Thicke got away with this too when he had Blurred Lines. Blurred Lines initially came out and they got it straight from the jump because he had that partnership with, I don't remember if it was Verizon, it was somebody, but man, just know Blurred Lines, literally the same week Blurred Lines came out, it already had the little partnership with the company and they were running the song on the commercials, which was which pretty much gave that song exposure to the entire country for it to blow up and be #1 for like however many weeks it was #1. I think it was 13. And so I think trying to get placements and commercials and you know, advertisements is one way for R&B to really get their sound out there. But like I said, I think R&B acts also need to try to invest in trying to diversify their albums when it comes to balance of up tempos versus mid tempos and slow tempos. Everybody doesn't have to be a party animal, but like if you're gonna do an album full of slow tempo or slow songs or mid tempos, make sure it flows. Because I mean, there was an era where there were artists who just pretty much solely did slow songs. Toni Braxton, when she came out, her first 2 albums are just pretty much, they're all right here, but the songs are so good that you, like, that's what the thing is, like, each song was so strong. Like, Toni Braxton's first album, every single song gets it in. Tony's second album, every single song gets it in. You know what I mean? And so, you know, if you're going to be that artist that's going to stay at this tempo all day, can you just make sure the songs are good? Like, can you make sure that when we put it in, like, we don't want to turn it off? Like, take me to the days of, not even days, but I know some of you do this, like when you're driving somewhere and the song is so good and you get to where you're at, but you're not going to get out the car until the song stops. That's what these albums should be doing for you guys. If it's not doing that, then, you know, clearly there's a disconnect. I have so much more I want to say because I've been sitting on all this crap for like a year. So I'll probably upload another one of these in like a week, but I don't want to overwhelm and have this be a 50-hour video. So that's our introduction into this. Like I said, I'll probably do another one of these in like a week or two just to kind of get back into the game of things because I have so much I really want to say. I'm sitting on so much, but we're not going to make this video 50 hours long. As far as anybody who's asking about my own music, it's all on Spotify. Actually, I think one of my songs is on the channel. I have my single, Atomic, is on there. I'll actually be uploading my song Breathe probably after this video, probably in the same day. You can get my album on Spotify and all major digital music outlets, all that great stuff. It's called Symphonic Euphoria. Just search Calvin Michaels. Anyway, let me know who y'all are listening to. What are you into? Like I said, the acts I've really been checking out, I really like this Daniel Caesar guy. I don't know where he came from, but he has a wonderful album. If that's an album you should check out. Anderson .Paak, I know his has been out for about a year and some change, but it's a really great song. A great album. I really like his song Parking Lot. That's my favorite song on that album, and Put Me Through. But there's some really great acts. Please, you know, like if you see somebody that y'all like, just put them in the comment section. That way people who come in here and all feel the same way, y'all can all just share, make it a whole camaraderie about what you're into, and just go for it. All right, I'm out. Subscribe.